I'm going to talk quickly about design. Design is kind of tough. I mean, not everyone is a designer. That's not what I do. I mean, I struggle with it, and not everyone wants to pay a designer to actually design their feed. And some people have, you could use lots of great tools like Canva and those kind of tools where you can get little objects and sort of make your images nicer than they are. But one common tactic to actually design a feed and have it sort of look consistent, and I think that's really the key to it, is this kind of look and feel, making it feel like it's yours. What most companies do, and I was surprised to see this number that's high when I was doing my research, around 60% of companies actually use a filter, and they use the same filter over and over again each time they post. So if you're posting onto the feed here, and you see this one over here kind of has a look and feel to it, these are basic graphics, but what they're doing is using the same sepia style filter. So this is a real simple way to give yourself a look. And I think you want to do that because you want to you want to have a certain brand theme. So that's a real easy win here. What you'll see is, a little bit more sophisticated pages. You'll see things like a grid, not that complicated to do. So what happens here is that the image, your content really pops out of this layout because of the contrast. So and it's really easy to create content when you're doing this sort of these inspirational quotes or information that's sitting in these high contrast boxes. This is a little bit more highly stylized, it's more designed, but it's really effective. I would use something like this if I was in any form of product-based business, or something where you're sort of talking about lifestyle, or you're selling content or ideas. This is a really good approach. A service. I think this is kind of nice. And then here there's all kinds of interesting ways of using color. This is kind of this diagonal approach, but what's happening here is that there's colors being used very methodically here. So every second post has this blue feel to it, so it ends up having this kind of feel to it whenever you see it. It has this sort of blue, pink, purple kind of view, and you're also seeing these diagonal, it's very nice and calming for the eye, and it actually draws people into it. So a beautiful feed can have a huge impact on how people engage with your page and interpret you, sort of judge you for what you're all about. And if you're creating things that are lifestyle or sort of focused on beauty, of course, I think you should invest a little bit in how your page looks. And by the way, we get a lot of questions about, I have this page today, what do I do with all my existing content? Should I delete it all and then start? I really don't think, I think you may want to, if it's completely different content, then you may want to start pulling back a few of those posts. You can redo a few of them with some new design, but I would first sort of create your design on top and then look below and see, okay, what can I repurpose here? What can I leave here that's not going to affect that design? So you don't necessarily have to sort of kill everything that you have to date, because that also has a lot of information associated with it. So a lot of the people that we work with run kind of a personal page. So I decided to take a look at sort of a quick take here at 3 different realtor style pages, so you can get a sense of different approaches for personal business and how folks go at it. So on the left here you see someone here who's taking kind of what I call a casual style. So this is actually, I would say, almost like a personal page with some business elements on it. And this may work for that individual. I tend to shy away from those pages. I think those appeal more to the friends that person has than anybody else. I think a lot of folks, especially when it comes to a brand like buying a home, are attracted to something where a safe kind of professional image. So what we have in sort of this middle one over here is something where this gentleman, Larry Legend, he actually uses this house branding box thing, and every time he's with someone, he makes them put them in front of them, which actually gives you this feeling like, wow, okay, this guy's selling a lot of houses. And you see him in a boardroom closing a deal, you see him in a suit, right? You see him with a family. This feels like a family person or someone you can kind of rely on. Even his profile picture has him going out with tux kind of thing, right? So again, this is projecting something about this individual, and I think this is kind of goes an interesting way. Not crazy about his profile. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. And this is a page that I actually really liked a lot. I feel like this has a good blend of both personal and business. So you have a mom She's sort of has a lot of professional images here around sort of keys to the city or keys to your home, awards, community pictures, new buildings that are being put together. But at the same time, she has her family and sort of personal shots that are really tastefully done. So this gives you the sense of, okay, here's a person who's responsible, obviously successful in some way, right? Even said by here, it's something is sold. That's what we're used to seeing. Really engaging profile, great looking feed. And so I would give this sort of a tick mark here. Both of these are actually decent pages. I think there's some work to be done here. But again, this may work for this individual. So stories are unbelievable. I think it's such an interesting thing. And some folks believe, or there's some stats that show that stories will surpass the feed itself, which is kind of makes sense. They're so much more interactive. They're full size, so they're bigger on screen. You can include these stickers, which are pretty interactive. You can design them right on screen. They're really fun to design. And if you have over 10,000 followers, you can actually add links to it, which is really great. So we get questions about what kinds of things you post. So the big question is, what do I post on my feed as opposed to posting as a story? So as we know, a story is only lasts for 24 hours. So certainly want to use, but it does show up higher, especially if they're engaged with a lot by your fans. It shows up higher on their page. It shows up right along the top in their app. So and people tend to browse through lots of different stories. So things like behind the scenes, certainly things like announcements, you should be using stories for. I think engaging folks with behind the scenes kind of content, so it's sort of sneak peek type content, using videos with video and QA, so integrating both the video with some kind of poll or trivia using these stickers, I think is really interesting. And definitely using a lot of video in general, I think is interesting, although that could be challenging to do. But creating a small timeline, creating a small story that's interesting to the brand, and again, it needs to be, in my view, very social and personable. It shouldn't be too formal, although you could do something quite beautiful, right? So here's an announcement, right? We got a giveaway. It's kind of catchy, right? You see that piece over here. Here's something a bit more engaging. One of these polls, kind of interesting as well. So I suggest using these quite regularly to gain feedback. And it makes sense that each time you do post a story to add a feed post as well, because that increases, again, your engagement or your opportunity. And you can actually have them work with each other. So you can have your story and your post feed post could say something a little bit different, right? So it could have more of a carousel, for example, or you may have a call to action that's different on your feed because it's a different style. But definitely, try to use stickers whenever you can. I think is really important. Stories there's a whole bunch more we can do with stories, and I decided to just do a small piece because it's a whole webinar on its own.